Energy and mobility. Two very important pieces of a puzzle that will define what our future will look like.
Ooh, look at this.
The wheels of industry must continue to turn in order for progress and development to move forward. But if we stay on the course we're on, there is a very costly price to pay. Climate change brought on by pollution, expensive energy, traffic, overcrowded cities, and a reduced quality of life in general are just some of the problems that we need solutions to. We need better ways to get from A to B and more efficient methods to generate the energy required to get there.
The IX has certainly not disappointed.
The future of energy and mobility is set to be quite electrified.
We are at a crossroads, and it matters very much which direction we take from this point on. We all know that cleaner, greener solutions are the only way to get ourselves to our more sustainable vision of the future. The question is, are we ready? Well, BMW seems to think so, or at least they feel like we're just around the corner. So in order to bridge that gap, well, they've invited me to experience one of their most technologically advanced vehicles, their flagship EV, the BMW iX. And we're driving it in one of the most EV-ready countries in the world. In fact, it's the very model of sustainability. I hope you guys packed a warm jacket because we are headed to Reykjavik, Iceland.
Well, after that very energetic intro, I've just realized that Reykjavik is 27 hours away. It's going to take us 3 different flights to get there, so there's going to be a lot of time to think about how we ended up in this seat right here. I'll see you guys at the other side of this flashback.
Just a few months back, BMW made its move towards an electrified future with the launch of the BMW iX, their first ever battery electric SUV here in the Philippines.
This poses the question, is our country equipped and are Filipinos ready for the EV revolution? Let's find out for ourselves.
Having access to adequate charging facilities that are reliable and fast will no doubt speed up the shift towards electric vehicles and help accelerate progress towards decarbonization and clean air goals.
While the purchase of the BMW iX comes with a wall-box charger that will be installed in the customer's home, currently there are also a few public quick charging spots that will power your vehicle from 10 to 80% in less than 40 minutes. The Department of Energy is pursuing the deployment of 20,000 imported EVs and putting up 5,000 EV charging stations for the next 5 years. This would cut fuel use by over 145 million liters, or an equivalent of 8 billion pesos in terms of fuel costs. And as drivers, we need that responsible mindset fueled by rising environmental concerns to successfully transition to electrified mobility.
Each country is unique and each transition will be different. But Iceland's journey to sustainability is a good model for the world.
And I'm excited to see what we can learn from them and share it with you guys. All right, guys, after almost 27 hours of travel, I have finally made it to Reykjavik, Iceland. Now, this is an unusual place, unusual vibe. Very happy to finally be here. Now, BMW is absolutely packed the next 3 days with tons of activities, so tonight is probably the best time to take a walk around town, pick up on some of the Icelandic vibe, and just figure out what modern Reykjavik is all about.
Come over to Iceland for a drift.
It's an early start here in Reykjavik. We're rolling out in the cars this morning. We're going out for the experience. It officially kicks off this morning. We're going to be driving all over Iceland, some pretty scenic stops, and enjoying the new BMW iX. We are driving the new BMW iX in scenic Iceland. If you were going to be driving any car in any location, this is the car you want to be driving in this place. It's been absolutely beautiful. Now, the BMW iX is, of course, BMW's push towards sustainable mobility, but I really just want to unpack that term a little bit.
The term sustainable goes far beyond the somewhat negative connotation of making do with less. In fact, sustainable mobility now means getting more from less. More performance, more comfort, more safety, and most importantly, more clean air because of less emissions. Electric cars produce zero tailpipe emissions compared to conventional vehicles. And if the call for sustainable mobility is right around the corner, two questions remain. How do we start, and what are the factors we need to consider?
The first and most important thing to understand and consider when stepping into this world is what is your life? How do you use the vehicle in order to fit to your life, of course, and then to choose the right formula for. I'll give you an example. If you are living in a big city, you are having, I don't know, 100, 200, sometimes even 300 kilometers per day, which is actually not the case in almost all around the world, then an EV vehicle is suitable for you because you're driving in the city, you're not polluting the environment, you're quiet, and you have usually a very easy access to a charging point. If you don't have it yourself, then there is usually a public network. If not now, it will develop. And you can see that the people, the mentality here, they want to conserve and preserve the nature.
BMW has found a beautiful way to balance sustainability with performance and luxury. All of those things are present in this package. It's a wonderful car to drive. Many of us who haven't driven EVs before have to get used to the fact that you don't have a lot of engine noise or feedback from the engine to give you an idea of how hard the car is working. The car is eerily quiet once you get moving and once you start it, but after a few minutes behind the wheel, it becomes, you get used to it and you get a real feel for it. You feel the car pulling quite strongly. It is, after all, 300 plus horsepower, putting power down to all four wheels via all-wheel drive, via two electric motors on each axle. 630 Newton meters of torque. It's got a lot of pull. We felt that in short sections in town. Definitely, the BMW iX is the future, and this is our opportunity to make vast and impactful changes. But I think a lot of Filipinos are still hesitant to make the leap. How do we convince people who are still on the fence about the idea of EVs? We'll find out when we return. As we start our journey through scenic Iceland, let's first get to know our ride.
All right, the cars have been charging overnight and they are ready for another day of adventure. I wanted to give you guys just a quick walk around of the iX range that we have here. You can see here they've been charging overnight, DC charging, so it's actually quite a fast charging time. We've got a fleet of 4 cars that we're using, varying from the xDrive 40 to the xDrive 50 in varying colors, and it is such a beautiful car. First off, I think BMW has really upped the design. I think it's a real departure from classic BMW design. I think they're really heading towards a new era in design. Look at what the cockpit looks like. The aesthetic and the design is very clean, it's very spare, minimalist. Definitely, I think, a step towards the future sort of look that BMW is going for in terms of its move towards more sustainable mobility. Star of the show, I think, is this huge panoramic
instrument cluster slash infotainment system. It's all been combined into this one long panoramic panel angled towards the driver's steering wheel that we have over here. Very comfortable to hold. You wouldn't think that from the initial impression that you get, but it's actually quite comfortable to drive the car. All controls within reach of your thumbs and fingers. Your center console has sort of been simplified. There's not a whole lot of buttons, or at least things are flush against this panel. The haptics are quite nice once you're using the system. You have the latest version of the BMW iDrive over here. Definitely movement towards the future design or the next level of design of BMW when it comes to their electrified vehicles.
If you are focused on driving in the city, then the electric cars is the way to go. BMW Group in general, we are extremely focused on renewable sources of energy, and we are trying to be carbon foot neutral. As with the iX, there are many examples. For example, the cloth inside or the floor mats, they're made from fishing nets. Yeah? We recycle those fishing nets, and then we integrate this and produce fabric out of it. And covering the cover of the leather inside, we're using olive leaves, and this is a natural source as well. So also the wood inside, we are buying it from sources which are certified, from woods which are already past their life. So they are coming from a controlled woods. So we are putting more or less the same carbon footprint. So we are very conscious of that as well. The whole structure of the car, it's carbon fiber reinforced plastic, it's CFRP.
BMW was the first manufacturer that created this process using plastics which are recycled and putting carbon fibers in order to create this carbon reinforced plastic. Also an important thing is that the body structure of this vehicle consists entirely of extremely lightweight and durable material, allowing the extra weight of the batteries for the electric drive system to be cancelled out. Most Filipinos will have questions regarding the range of the BMW iX. With the 5th generation EV technology of BMW, the iX is able to achieve a range of approximately 375 kilometers. Using the battery mode feature of the car, the iX regenerates power back into the high voltage battery while driving.
Generally speaking, you need to consider as well that the batteries are, let's say, influenced by the weather, and more importantly, as the internal combustion engine cars, by the driver. So we say always that this varies from kilometers to kilometers, but we can put strongly our bet on, let's say, between 400 to 500 kilometers you can rely. Of course, if you are driving in a little bit more dynamic manner, you can go below 300 even, but if you fully charge iX40, you can rely on 300 kilometers easy. Yeah?
Speaking of which, 21.5 degrees Celsius is the ideal temperature for electric vehicle battery performance. Basically just a little less than our country's average temperature. And around a 300-kilometer range, that's like a 7-hour drive from Manila to Nueva Vizcaya. Not a bad distance. But as electric cars rely on electricity, it matters how the source of power is generated. Today, we're set to discover all kinds of natural attractions that Iceland has to offer, and there's no end to them here. Iceland has become one of the leading EV markets worldwide over the past 4 years due to their renewable sources of power, low electricity prices paired with high fossil fuel prices, and a huge urbanization rate that make this country an ideal market for EVs. Let's discover how Icelandic people are committed to sustainability and what we can learn from their everyday lives. All right, first stop of the day, we're seeing why Iceland is so EV ready. This is one of their biggest geothermal plants over here, where they generate a ton of the energy needed by Iceland.
Welcome to Hellisheiðarvirkjun.
Now we are standing in the biggest geothermal power plant in Iceland, and one of the biggest in the world. Geothermal is generally considered green energy because compared to fossil fuels, the carbon dioxide that we extract is very minimal. It's just a fraction of what a fossil fuel power plant would produce. How do you do this? Well, to have a geothermal power plant like this, you basically need 3 things. That's a heat source. The second thing you need is permeable bedrock or leaky bedrock. The third thing, water. And it rains a lot here in Iceland, especially up in the highlands. So we have that represented here. So water raining down, and it flows into the bedrock. The water flows towards the heat source and starts convecting. Okay, just like when you're heating water in a pot, it goes up to the surface, bubbles up, and then goes back down and heats up again. And there are places that it would be worth it to do it, like the Philippines, because there's a lot of volcanic activity and a lot of water. Iceland is helping many nations to build their geothermal systems, and Philippines is one of those countries. I think they already have some geothermal power plants in the Philippines.
According to the Fitch unit, the Philippines has one of the world's highest levels of installed geothermal capacity, as well as making up a large share of its total renewables output, estimating the country's annual geothermal power capacity to an average more than 60% over the next 10 years. So safe to say, yep, we're on track. We are ready to power up electric mobility. Next stop, we uncover Iceland's unusual approach to baking.
Geothermal bakery, apparently it's a thing here in Iceland. Let's go check it out.
Geothermal heat provides Iceland with a clean, renewable source of energy, but it also gives locals a great way to bake bread without even turning on an oven. Here, bread is baked straight in the volcanic heat of the ground. The sand here is about 120 degrees Celsius and will bake this delicious Icelandic specialty to perfection in about 24 hours. Bury it today to enjoy tomorrow.
Yeah.
Whether you have it plain, with some butter, or with a bit of smoked trout, trust me, this salty sweet bread is absolutely worth the wait. Too much mouth-watering food. It makes me wonder how, despite their long, dark winters, Iceland can grow vegetables all year round. So now, I'm off to find the answer. While tomatoes are not a traditional product of Iceland, as it is simply just too cold, Icelanders have found an ingenious solution to have fresh produce available all year round. And that is made possible by farming in greenhouses.
Welcome to my farm. My name is Knútur Ármann and I'm the farmer. Here we have some tomatoes, Icelandic tomatoes. Would you like to try?
Do it.
Please.
Straight in.
Oh yeah.
That's great.
My experience in Freidheimar has proven Iceland's commitment not just to electrified mobility, but also food security. And it's this holistic approach to sustainability that is unarguably one of the mindsets that we can adopt in our home country. When we return, we drive further to unearth how beauty and sustainability go hand in hand. From the pristine fjords to the dramatic volcanic lava fields, it's easy to see why nature is the main highlight of any visit to Iceland. Icelanders know this and place great value in preserving the environment. Appreciating these vistas reconnect us with the earth, and it makes any drive along the island's circumferential roads an absolute feast for the senses.
Nice, these purple flowers or something.
From our road trip, we're now exploring Iceland from a different perspective, through kayaking. Iceland has amazingly found the balance between sustainably harnessing natural energy and also passionately caring for its nature.
All right, that was a lot of work. I think we earned our lunch today.
Further down the Golden Circle route are a couple of stops one shouldn't miss. Whether it's hot water going up or cold water coming down, any drive through this area wouldn't be complete without taking in the majestic Gullfoss Falls and a walk through the Geyser Fields. We had a packed itinerary, and we were driving about 250 to 300 kilometers per day. Despite the cool conditions, battery life was certainly within the claimed range, and there was still a good amount of juice in store when we would end the day and plug in to recharge.
What happens after the batteries, let's say, going down their cycle? As you know, it's very common to have a mobile phone. After a few years, you can see the battery health is going down. This is the same with the vehicles. And we cannot define the amount of cycles as they are driven in a different manner, meaning if you are like really dynamic on the throttle, this discharges the battery quickly, and then of course you need to charge it more often. So this is one of the topics we are not going to put a number behind. But what happens with the battery if they need to be replaced at the end of the life cycle is we store them currently in hubs which can be used additionally to store energy, for example, with renewable sources from energy, from the sun, for solar energy, wind, let's say turbines and other stuff. So BMW Group in general, we are extremely focused on renewable sources of energy, and we are trying to be carbon footprint neutral.
And just like with any electronic device that needs charging, you may need a wall box charger installed in your home to optimize the 12-hour charging of the iX. And as a smart, ambitious society that wants to thrive and ensure a long-lasting future for ourselves and future generations, I think we're willing to take the next steps.
It has been such a scenic drive so far. Take a look at this. What's not to enjoy?
It's not easy to describe how an encounter with nature in its most primal state leaves its mark on you. But when you experience it like you do in Iceland, you can't help but develop an appreciation and a desire to help protect it. The Icelanders understand that the Earth will continue to share its bounty and many gifts if we do our part in maintaining balance. And that is probably the best lesson from this visit to bring home with us.
Iceland, what a trip! From the breathtakingly beautiful drives to learning about how an entire country can be run on renewable energy, it's certainly been a real eye-opener. BMW Drive experience here in Iceland has shown us what we can dream to be, what we can aspire to be in terms of renewable energy and sustainable mobility. It shows us a glimpse of the next step, but it's up to us to be willing to take the first step. We all have to be on board, and we all have to pitch in on our journey towards sustainability. Something to think about. So from Iceland, this is Paolo Abrera reminding everyone that we may have a daunting task ahead of us, but we've got the solution if we all pitch in. And it all begins with that one small act.